Students at SUNY New Paltz have a few complaints about the parking situation. Since classes this year are back in person after a year and a half, any students who want hands-on experience are coming back to do so. The majority of these complaints come from commuter students who rely on parking in order to attend classes. We spoke to some students about their commuter experience.
It's very difficult most days to find spaces, and that disrupts me getting to class on time.
Just the main difficulty would be making sure I get here on time and being able to find parking before I'm late to class.
Finding a parking space on campus, for me, depends on usually when I wake up, because if I'm running a little late and I get there only 10 to 15 minutes before class starts, then sometimes it's pretty difficult, and I probably have to park at the one by the bus station that's at the very edge of campus, and then it's an even longer walk onto campus.
Depending on the day, sometimes I won't even find a parking space. I'd have to go park by the meters. But on a normal day, probably 15-20 minutes.
Students face struggles over finding parking, getting to class late, and a number of other problems. The small parking lots and the lack of spaces have made it difficult for commuter students. In 2020, 75% of students lived off campus, making the commuter number even higher.
So yeah, getting to class on time and finding parking spaces is very difficult.
It depends on the day. If it's like a really rainy, gloomy day, it's a lot easier to find parking. But if it's like a regular day where the parking lots are full, it could take me upwards of to 15 minutes.
Living on campus versus living off campus, I personally would prefer living on campus, even though when I did live in the dorms, I lived in Esopus and Ridgeview, so those were the farthest from all the classroom buildings. But I didn't have to worry about like parking and like finding spaces and like allotting time for like waking up on my own, like getting ready, eating, and then like having to drive and find a spot, and like if there's traffic for like weather, or my luck, I hit like pretty much every red light trying to come here. So even though it was sometimes a little bit more walking, I think it was more worth it because there's always less foot traffic than car traffic.
Getting to class easier and faster, definitely. When you're on campus, it's just a walk away, but commuting, you have to worry about time crunch, so you have to leave extra early, and overall, it's just difficult.
I think the main difference is like the security that people who live on campus have of not having to worry about their car breaking down or finding parking to be able to make it to class on time.
There's a clear lack of signage and direction of where commuter students are supposed to park. Many commuters have not been to SUNY New Paltz before their first day driving there, which leads to trouble finding their place on campus.
Yeah, the way the setup of the parking lots are, it's on a hill, so it makes it kind of hard to find space in between cars. I always find like people walking out and they almost like get hit, or trying to back up. I'm very close to the cars, so there's not a lot of room to park or even drive around. Also, there's no arrows directing where traffic could be, so it creates a lot of traffic jams.
Definitely the distance between the parking spaces and the lane that the cars drive through in the parking lots. I think it's really hard, especially if someone's waiting for a spot and you just get stuck there. It's also really dangerous with the way people walk through the parking lots and try not to get hit.
So I guess safety hazards is obviously there's the weather conditions. I remember when I did live on campus, whenever, because it snows fairly like a lot here, and because we do have a lot of commuter students, it's nice that usually professors, maybe not the school, but at least usually professors are pretty considerate, where I remember sometimes I would show up to class like with my boots, like umbrella, everything, like walking through the rain and snow, and only half the class would show up, and the professor would say in the beginning, just letting us know that like most of the commuter students like called in or emailed in saying that it was unsafe for them to come, so they understood for ice or heavy rain, thunderstorms, whatever, so they wouldn't come for those reasons. And now that we're getting into the winter months, I'm starting to worry about that because I'm now a commuter student.
Many other students have had financial struggles while at SUNY New Paltz. Even though the students are still facing a global pandemic, the price of parking on campus are still high. A commuter parking pass is $40 per semester, or even $80 for the year. This price tag is not included with the tuition payment.
I personally think having a fee is pretty stupid for parking passes, considering how much like we have to pay like just to be here.
Now that you put it that way, it's kind of hard to hear, but I'm just grateful that I can afford it, but it would be nice to not have to.
but I know a lot of people that it does affect, and I do think it's quite expensive to have that. And then also on top of that, pay for parking, which most of the time people can't even find a spot or they're late to classes because of it. So I think it's personally unfair to do that.
For the amount that we pay, it should at least be included, or it should at least just be for the whole year, not like per semester.
To conclude, SUNY New Paltz should allow more parking for commuter students as the number of students is increasing by the semester. The parking pass fee should be included as part of tuition, as all students should have the same ability to park on campus despite financial difference.